Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabados of Damar, together with my co-host Mark Ronich of statewide news service of JBizTechValley.com.
You know, Rabbi, my field is the politics. You always mention that. I'm into the politics and the government, and you're the rabbi.
All right.
And you got to deal with the spiritual aspects of people. So our next guest coming up here in the Jewish View is someone who I have a close relationship with. Her name's Barbara Zaron. She's from Slingerlands, and she's president of the Office of Management, the Organization of Management Confidential Employees, and not office, an organization. And welcome to the Jewish View.
Thank you.
Barbara.
Thank you very much.
I really think you should explain what the organization does, because a lot of people probably don't understand what Management Confidential even is. So.
Let me start with that then. Management Confidential is a designation of state employees. Management should be fairly easy to understand. They're the folks who supervise the practitioners and work in developing policy and new programs and those kinds of things. The confidential folks are those who work in a confidential capacity. For example, a payroll clerk might be, or somebody in a personnel office, a confidential secretary to a commissioner or a deputy commissioner or people at that higher level. They are part of the civil service system. Management confidential employees are not permitted to belong to an organization that engages in collective bargaining, so that it can't belong to a union. Right. Many of the management confidential employees previously worked in a position that was represented by one of the other unions.
And they started on a low level, now became...
And they've worked their way up through promotion, and now they're in a management confidential position. They can no longer belong to a union. They can no longer belong to the union that they used to.
This is what you say you can't. This is state law?
State law. State law prohibits it, yes.
Mm-hmm. But let's say there's a commissioner who finishes up as commissioner, let's say, of Department of Correctional Services, mm-hmm. and then goes back, after being commissioner, goes back to a previous job in the rank and file, or they just leave after commissioner, they top off, they never go back to a lower position?
Probably they're not going to go back
because
to a lower level position. No, if you've been a commissioner of an agency for some number of years, usually that's the level that one aspires to, right, and would not ordinarily go back to a previously held position. I can't say that it's never happened. No. I can think of one commissioner that left the commissionership and went to work in another agency in a different capacity.
Well, John Egan.
John Egan was an exception to almost everything.
DOT commissioner, OGS commissioner. I mean, he was all over the place.
Right. And then he got special assignments from other folks. Yes, and there is always an exception to the rule. But ordinarily, I mean, the other commissioner that I'm thinking of was Darrell Obertine, who was the Ag and Markets commissioner. Right. And he left that position, and then he went to work, I believe, for the state comptroller's office. But that was in a different capacity. And
right, could he join a union in his capacity under the state comptroller?
Depends on what the position he was in.
Okay.
Was if it was a position represented, if it was a management position, no. If it was a position a title in a position that was represented by the Public Employees Federation, for example, and if he was appointed to that position, then he would have been able to join that.
That's interesting. Okay. What are your biggest challenges? What is OMCE's biggest challenge these days?
Right now? Yeah. Let me just go back to answer the question of what. Sure. Let me just give people an idea of what we as an organization do. Mm-hmm. With the exception of collective bargaining, we do the same diverse activities and representations for our members as a union would do. So if somebody wants to file a grievance, we can help them with that. I mean, that's not our priority, obviously, but we try to resolve differences at the lowest possible level and trying to negotiate, if I can use that term.
Are you respected on the second floor of where the governor's
I would say
office
so.
is?
I
You
would
are.
say so.
So respected like with every other union. Okay. I just want to
Yeah,
make sure
I would,
they're
I
just
would,
not
I
saying-
would, I would certainly say so. We do talk to staff,
'cause you're
the
a
governor's
you're a
office
union
staff.
That's not a union.
That's
So-
correct. Well, we don't negotiate.
Right.
So we can't negotiate terms and conditions of employment. We can't negotiate salaries. We
Right.
can't negotiate all benefits, all of those other things. But we do raise our voice. We do as much persuading as we're physically and emotionally able to do. We do talk to the governor's staff. We talk to Division of the Budget staff, State Comptroller staff, Civil Service staff, and staff in the various agencies
What are the
in
issues? Like,
representing.
give us a typical
Major
issue,
issue.
yeah.
The major issue that we have been dealing with for a number of years now is under the previous contracts. And I said we can't negotiate a contract, but we do have what's called a pay bill that outlines and delineates the salaries and the benefits that the MC employees will get. Those historically and traditionally have tracked the salary increases and the benefits that the union represented folks get. In the previous contract term, which was the 2007 through 11 contract, there were salary increases in 2008, 2009, 2010. Everybody got their 2008 salary increases. And then the economy kind of got a little bit bad. In 2009, the rest of the workforce got their salary increases, which were 3% that year. The MC employees had their salary increase withheld. Same thing happened in 2010. The rest of the workforce got their salary increases. The Management Confidential people did not.
And that was Governor Patterson's administration.
That was Governor Patterson's administration. So we had a whole series of discussions with the governor, with his staff, with budget, the whole crew. We went to the legislature to try to get a legislative resolution. That didn't work. We went to court. That didn't work. The court said, sorry, folks. The way the language in the statute read, it gave the budget director the authority to withhold under certain very vague circumstances. And so the court said there's language that permits them to do that, and they did it, and you may not like it, you may not think it's right, but they have the authority to do it. Comes
A new
the new administration.
current one.
And in 2011, when Governor Cuomo took office, was time for negotiations with the unions. So negotiations ensued. They negotiated a contract. I'm sure you remember, Mark, there was some controversy, at least with PEF, about the first contract that they were offered, and there was a rejection
Right.
of that contract. They went back. The final contract included 0 salary increases for 2011, 12, and 13.
Right.
When the contracts were put into statute, which they are, and CSEA then had their contract negotiations, the same salary increases were included in the CSEA contract.
Well, one was 4 years, one was 3 years. or
Correct.
One was, okay.
Correct, but the salary
Yeah,
increases, the same 3 years of 0 increases.
But what's interesting is that they.
And then
Yeah.
they took the Management Confidential people
Right.
and they said, in your pay bill, you're having 3 years of 0 salary increases in 2011, 12, and 13. Well, that's consistent with the contracts. That's typically the way the pattern was. However, the 7% that the MCs should have gotten in 2009 and 10 had not been paid.
Right.
We come to 2014, it still has not been paid. So they're a minimum of 7%, and in some cases closer to 10%
Wow.
behind the people that they're responsible for supervising.
Yeah.
In some cases, you have, I'll use the example of a secretary just as an example, one who's in a CSEA represented position and one who's in an MC represented position.
Working side by side.
Working side by side, doing similar, not
Right.
necessarily exactly the same, but similar tasks. The CSEA represented employee is being paid 7 to 10% more than the MC represented secretary. This does not make MCs very happy. So we have spent since 2009, the last 5.5 years, trying to get this issue resolved.
And some of the-
Resolved means the money that was taken away, the 3%, the 4%,
Right.
the compounding of that, plus those people who are not at the top of their salary grade level
Mm-hmm.
and who are supposed to get increases between the hiring rate that they start at and what's called the job rate, those were being held back. So that in some cases they were paid a year late, in some cases it was maybe 9 months late.
Mm-hmm.
This year, when we get to 2014, it got a little bit better. It was only 3 months late. So what's happened is that the management and confidential employees are significantly behind in terms of salary level at this point. One example, there's a grade, you were explaining the
Right.
management confidential salary grade
Right.
levels. There's a grade, it's an M called M1. It's the
Right.
equivalent to a grade 25.
Uh-huh. And they get
It's
66,000 to 84,000.
To 84,000. However, if there are CSEA people in that grade level, there are PEF represented people in that grade level, and at the top of the salary grade, they are making $8,500 more than the management confidential person at that same
Right.
grade level. And I mean, you're assigned to a grade level based on the requirements of the job, so that the comparability of what's required is one of the factors that's already taken into account.
So let me ask you quickly
Okay.
about the
What we're doing,
what?
how we're addressing it.
Well, okay. How are you addressing it?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, we've had a three-pronged strategy. I mentioned that we had gone to court in 2010 and got a no decision from the court. So we have had over all of these years, 11, 12, 13, and 14.
Oh.
2014, I'll get to in a minute. But we have had continuing discussions with the administration. So that includes the top-level staff in the governor's office. It includes the division of the budget director and top-level staff there. It includes, to a lesser degree, the folks in the governor's office of employee relations. It includes folks in the comptroller's office, civil service department. That's one part of it. Second part of it is a legislative program. So in 2013, we were able to have a bill passed that would have established a management confidential salary commission. It was passed just about unanimously by the legislature. It went to the governor. It was vetoed by the governor.
Because?
And in the veto message, he said it should be addressed in the context of the state budget. Okay, comes 2014 budget process.
Right.
And we're talking to the legislature, we're talking to the administration folks. Lo and behold, it doesn't get put into the budget. We had carried the bill wasn't reintroduced in 2014. It was again passed.
Mm-hmm.
It is now waiting to be sent to the governor for his action. we assume that that will happen after the election.
Right. Now
We don't know.
So now
We don't know what
the past
what
5
the-
years,
Right.
there have been people who are MC employees who have left their employment with the state, and others who have come
there
into
are
MC.
probably somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 MCs who've retired
So what happens
since early in 2009.
So
So
what
they have
happens-
not gotten
Right. So when
the
you get
increases.
this retroactive 10%, let's say, what happens with those
well,
folks? Do they get a
part
check?
of what we are trying to ensure happens is that even those who have left the payroll
Yeah.
will get paid back. Our position is every single MC who
Right.
had this money withheld from them must be paid what was taken
Wow.
away.
Okay.
I mean, that's our position.
Yeah.
That's what we've been trying to accomplish.
So what's your takeaway when you analyze this for the past 5 years, and you see two administrations, the Patterson and Cuomo administrations? Are they thumbing you? Are they smiling and saying nice things to you, but then thumbing their nose at you after you leave? I mean, are they?
Well, in the last
I mean, it's
year-
disrespectful if nothing else.
MCs certainly feel that way.
Yeah.
And in the last year and a half, and we have had very substantive discussions, there is agreement that this is a situation that must be fixed. Administration folks have said that. Division of the Budget has said, yeah, we agree. There's a problem. It is causing a problem. The governor himself has said on more than one occasion, this salary situation has caused me problems in recruiting and hiring some of the people that I want to bring into my administration. I mean, it's a real serious issue. And what's happened is that people who are represented by CSEA and PEF in many cases have refused to take management confidential positions because they will lose money if
Right.
they take them. And in other situations, management confidential employees have left those positions to go to
The union position.
the union position because then they will be
Mhm.
they will recoup some of the money that was taken away from them. So we've really been working to try to get this. One of the other things that people don't think about is this money that has been withheld affects these people's pension
Yes.
for the rest of their lives. It affects their Social Security
Right.
because of the reduced earnings. It affects the value of their sick leave that many of these people have saved up, because when you retire, the value of your sick leave is converted to a monetary value
Right.
to be used to pay for your share of health insurance coverage. So all of those things are at risk
Right.
because this salary has been diminished over these past
You know,
5
you
and a
talk
half
about numbers,
years.
how many retired, how many members, let's refer to the beginning.
There are approximately 9,000 management confidential employees who work in the executive branch. Those are the agencies under the governor's control. And there are approximately 2,000 additional in the SUNY system and the authorities.
Okay.
So they're about 11,000.
So look.
In this capital district,
Yes.
there are about 4,000.
Okay.
Out of the 11.
So you travel. The
Actually,
Some of
around 4,000 out of the
Give or take.
9,000 in the executive branch.
Okay.
So it's
Do you
about
travel
half.
the state
But-
to meet with all these members? Or?
We on occasion, our executive director is just in the process, almost finishing
Who is that?
a series of. His name is Joe Sano.
Joe Sano.
A series of what we call lunch and learns.
Yes.
So he's been to Long Island. He's been to New York City. There'll be one in Schenectady next week. We had a couple in New York,
Okay.
in Albany, and he goes out to talk to the members
Right.
and non-members as well, because we certainly invite non-members to hear what's going on and what efforts we're making to resolve this situation. So we do that. We are planning next Thursday, I think it's Thursday, October 30th, to do a teleconference call, at which we will do the same kind of discussion for those people who are not able to get to a luncheon or a dinner meeting.
Let me just ask you about these. The governor says that his commissioners are making less than the deputies.
That's true.
That deputies make more.
That's true.
So is he trying to, because the commissioner's salaries are
They're
set in law.
In law.
So, and there's
Correct.
a bill that the legislature's been holding up that would increase the commissioner's salaries. So is he trying to level the playing field?
The bill that has been held actually is a bill to increase the MC salaries.
Yeah.
This was one of our efforts. I mean, I talked about the activities related to the administration, then the legislative.
Right, but the governor
activity.
wants to increase the salaries of his commissioners.
Yeah, we believe so.
So
we
is he
believe
trying
so.
to level the playing field by having the next line of the deputy commissioners, assistant deputies, and assistant commissioners, and all those other titles that are just below commissioner, to
I would hope so.
Well,
I would hope so.
you would hope not. I would.
No,
think.
no. I would hope that
Yeah.
if they want to increase the commissioner's salaries,
Right.
and I will tell you, I think they should be
Right.
increased, that it will be part of a package that addresses the MC salary
Why
situation.
should it be tied to it?
Because
Why,
that
in your view, in your expert
I'm
view?
being practical.
Yes.
I think the MC salary situation should have been taken care of long ago.
Yes.
It should not have waited this
It
long.
should not be tied to the commissioner's
It should not be, but
practicality.
the political practicality says that may be the way that the MC issue is going to get resolved. Because
Right.
if we do it as a package,
Right.
it may be more politically palatable.
Right. Well, we got a
Then
$4
just
billion
doing
budget surplus.
We probably $6 billion.
$6 billion.
Closer
Should
to.
should that some of
We
that
should
money?
use. If it's not that money, then it should be money that otherwise would have been used for something else.
Have you ever
that
totaled-
can be
Have you ever totaled up
released.
how much the MC employees in total
the
earn?
savings to the state.
no.
How much they earn? I don't have that.
No. Okay.
I don't have that number.
Okay.
Um,
But it's in the billions.
the projections are that to fix this problem, to pay back
Yes.
the 7% plus
Right. Could be 10%. Right.
would be somewhere in the range of $80 to $90 million. Now, the state has already saved well over $500 million in not paying
Mm-hmm.
these
Right.
salary increases. Because also in 2011, and again, this was in the union contracts and it was applied to the MCs, there was 9 days of time. It was called deficit reduction leave. This was another effort to get some money
Mm-hmm.
that people had to give up.
Like a week.
That was, 1 week or 9 days worth.
Uh-huh.
That was just under 2%.
Mhm.
So that was an additional 2%.
Right.
Now, people are supposed to start getting that money back April of 2015, or if they've already left state service, they were paid at that time. At the same time, for many, many years, state employees have contributed to paying for health insurance
Mm-hmm.
coverage. The percentage that people were required to contribute was increased in 2011.
Right.
So, 3 minutes.
Okay.
So, at the same time that the MCs are losing their salary increases, they're also getting hit with these additional costs to them.
Uh-huh. Right.
So
That's everyone's feeling that. The PEF members are feeling it. Everyone's
That's
feeling
correct, but the PEF people did get their salary increases.
But
So it
not
just
yet. But they got it in.
it got it in
the
2009
contract.
and 10.
Right.
They got it, and the other folks didn't get it. So this is an additional financial burden that people were having to absorb.
All right, granted.
Okay,
Okay.
so now, here we are.
Right, so I'm saying,
Right.
now, can the MC employees, these 9,000 people, get the, get back on track, whether they
Well,
were
that's what we're trying.
current
That's
or-
what we're trying to do. That's
Okay.
what we're trying
So
to do.
now you're hopeful.
And
Now,
now,
2015. Let
well,
me just tell
no,
the
we're
audience
hoping that right after the election, that this issue will be resolved.
before 2015, because 2015
Why not?
begins a new session,
That's correct.
and you got to start
Now we have to
over.
start all over again.
Right.
So, I mean, we're prepared to introduce the bills. I mean, prepared to ask legislators to introduce the bills for us. Again, if the
But we don't
situation
know if
is
there's
not
gonna be a special
resolved.
session.
Well,
We know the Senate will come back because of the Court of
because
Appeals.
of the Court of Appeals,
But we
but we
don't know if the
don't, we
Assembly is
don't,
gonna
we,
come back.
we don't know. We don't know.
Right. So you may have to start it.
We may have to. We're being hopeful
Now,
that
let
it
me
will
ask
be
you,
done
since you can't do
before.
Since you can't do
January.
collective bargaining,
Mhm.
can you strike?
No.
Because people, when you're doing collective
No.
bargaining, you can't strike.
Under the
Taylor
Taylor
law,
law,
yeah.
public employees can't strike anyway.
Okay. I just think someone out there is thinking that. And I
No,
was just
we
channeling
can't.
My
We can't.
audience.
We can't. The other thing
One
the
more
other thing
minute.
I would mention in what we've done this year specifically is a public relations campaign
Yeah.
geared toward the legislature and the administration,
Okay.
asking for fairness and equity, resolving this problem, paying the
Okay.
MCs what they're due. This is an obligation that has to be paid.
Right.
It's a debt that has to be paid. And it should be paid and it should be resolved before we start the new year. If we have to go into the new year, we've already written to budget saying, budget director, make sure you have money in the budget to pay this obligation. Make sure that all the discussions that we have had about how to do this, we go ahead and do it.
Right.
You know, 6 years is much too long to wait for the situation to be resolved.
You're hanging in there.
All right.
I am not leaving until it's done.
Okay.
All right, Barbara, we want to thank you. We're out
Thank
of
you
time,
very
but it was
much.
very informative, and wish you the
Thank
best
you.
of luck in helping for
Thank
your
you.
members
Best
and
of
the
success.
people of
Thank
New York
you.
State. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.